Hello, Sunny Hill, and welcome back to this week's Take 5 with me, Lou Bird. It's great to be with you today. We are in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and this is another one of those passages which is just because you could, it doesn't mean you should kind of moment, where Paul is again calling us to live to a higher standard as believers in Jesus and live us out of his truth. Live us out? That sounds weird. I don't mean that. I mean people who live out his truth. Let's go with that. Today he's talking about marriage, which is an interesting one. And here actually we get this a bit of a split in Paul kind of saying, this is not of the Lord's command, this is my advice. And so we have a bit of both mixed into this chapter here. Paul's view on marriage and Paul's view on intimacy. And some of it is stuff that God's commanded and some of it is just good advice from Paul. And we can trust Paul's advice. But I love that he puts it in there, that this is not specifically of God. This is just me saying this. But he's a pretty sound bloke, so it's good advice all the same. The Corinthian church at the time was dealing with a really weird issue. They were newly Christian, and they were trying to understand how sex fits into marriage. And whether it's something that's, marriage is too pure for sex, or whether or not, people still had needs to be fulfilled, but maybe didn't feel comfortable doing it in marriage. So actually a lot of the people in the Corinthian church were going outside of their marriage to fulfill these needs. And there was this real disconnect between what is the purpose of intimacy in a marriage and how does it look and how does it fit and is there any place for it in marriage. And so Paul here is really wanting to clearly state some important information about the purpose of intimacy in a marriage. Paul explains that sex was ordained and that he's encouraging married couples to keep sex as a priority and to keep it within the confines of marriage, right? And Paul explains that, Satan's great strategy is to mess with how we view sex. And we can see that, everywhere, that Satan is really undermining the purpose of sexual intimacy in our world. And he's really, really, really good at it. And he was getting into the Corinthian church. And dare I say it, he is very much at work in every church still today with this same issue. Paul explains that Satan's great strategy when it comes to sex is to do everything he can to keep sex outside of marriage and to discourage sex within marriage. And obviously, Satan doesn't mind which one wins as long as one of them does, whether it's a sexless marriage or great sex outside of marriage, Satan still wins. And Paul is really saying that's not what intimacy was made for. Actually, intimacy should be done as a married couple, as part of your relationship, as part of keeping you close together, as part of keeping Satan out of your marriage. It's one of the best things that you can do for your marriage is to have great, wild sex. I'm just going to say it. I'm the pastor. I can say it. And he uses words really great words like surrendering yourself, like this mutual surrendering that happens as part of marriage, this mutual sacrifice, laying down your needs for someone else's needs. And we see that in the very best marriages in all over the place, not just in intimacy, but in healthy marriages all over the globe. The key to it is to outdo one another in love, outdo one another in putting down what you need and picking up what someone else needs. I like verse 3 where he says, let the husband render his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. This understanding that a husband should be affectionate to his wife and a wife should fulfill needs, and the other way around. Not every marriage is, the same, and every marriage relates differently within that. But certainly there should be this mutual surrendering and meeting each other in their need for marriage to be great, for marriage to work. But I love how Paul is still in this passage saying this is not even really the biggest thing. The biggest thing is we focus on the mission. And what was happening in the Corinthian church is that everyone was getting caught up in whether they should stay single, whether they should stay married, whether they should be active in their intimacy or whether they should abstain from intimacy. And then it was really causing this massive distraction from what Paul says is the major goal. The major goal is the mission. Let's not forget the gospel message within this. And you can live out the gospel message in your marriage, or even better, you can live out the gospel message in your singleness. So a message to us singles here at Sunny Hill, there is a great value in how you're living out the gospel in your singleness. Paul talks about the fact that he loves being single because it frees him from the distraction that marriage and sacrificing these needs to one another can be. Actually, he could just be sold out for the gospel. So your singleness is a great gift to the church. And basically all in this passage, Paul is saying, whatever you do, whether it's marriage, whether it's singleness, honor God and keep being the living, breathing example of the gospel message. So my message and my question to you today, Sunny Hill, on this beautiful, hopefully Tuesday morning, is how can I model the gospel in my marriage? And how can I model the gospel in my singleness? Whatever my situation, how am I showing the message of Jesus and making his mission my priority in either my marriage or my singleness? Enjoy your day, Sunny Hill. See you tomorrow. Bye.